What's the best job for a lazy person? A guy on the surveying crew has the job of watching a surveying GPS unit all day. He gets dropped off with the unit, sets it up and sits there and makes sure it doesn't get stolen and that the blue light is still on. That's all he does every day, day after day. He thinks his job is the greatest thing ever. I had days working construction in NYC where my job was to sit in the double-parked work truck and drive it around the block whenever a cop came by. Sysadmin, I hate my life. I've automated 85% of my job. I'd be shocked if I worked more than 4 hours on an average week. It sounds great, but fuck, it's boring sitting here surfing tomorrow's Reddit today. A lot of IT-related office jobs at big companies involve a lot of downtime for one reason or another, where you're just sitting around waiting for work to come in. Just be careful what you wish for. I did a 6-month work placement at a place doing QC on medical data entry. It was as riveting as it sounds, and due to poor management there were massive stretches of time, like more than a solid week, where there was nothing for us to do. We were literally begging for work because we were so fucking bored. If someone had asked me to start hoovering the carpets, I would have jumped at the chance. I worked as a security guard for a trucking company on the weekends. The rest of the company conveniently didn't work weekends, so I had the whole place to myself. I worked 12-hour days and walked around a small wing of the property every hour and documented anything that was out of the ordinary. Almost nothing was ever out of the ordinary. Other than that, I didn't do anything. It was actually really boring because the guardhouse was outside of the Wi-Fi area, so I blew through my phone data really fast. To cure boredom and ease my phone bill, I bought a portable DVD player and watched every DVD I had. The person that sit on a chair in the museum. They just sit there in one of the most quiet places I've visited. And when a person stands too close to an artwork, they just cough a little and tell you to step back. I'm a backstage doorman at a Broadway theater. I sit around watching Netflix and Hulu and all that shit all day. If I'm feeling ambitious, I'll read a book or write some stand-up material. It's a pretty sweet gig and perfect for the laziest of people. Back in college, I was a computer lab monitor. I just had to sit in the lab, and once every hour count the number of people there. If I was opening or closing the lab, there was about 15 minutes of work for that, but otherwise I could just surf the web or do my homework. Copy editor. You can pretty much work out of your own home and be a professional grammar Nazi. Pays may, but it's really not bad once you build up a client base, since you can literally sit on your ass for hours if your grasp on the language is strong. I used to go to the factory where they make giant rotating machinery for power plant generators. It would take a week or more to machine these giant discs, and the machinist just sat there watching this giant, computer-operated machine do all the work. If an error popped up, the machine would stop, sound an alarm on the computer, and the machinist would pick up the phone and call an engineer to come fix it. Also, they didn't do any of the removal or setup. That was done by a team of engineers and transport folks. $30 per hour. Find a remote data entry job and outsource it to someone who will do it for cheaper. Let them do your job and just collect the difference. Anyone else scrolling through the comments looking for job opportunities? I'm an analyst. I taught myself a bunch of stuff, and spent a bunch of time automating things because I'm too lazy to do them every day/week/month. I worked as a security guard for a few years. Their policy was going around the perimeter of the plaza twice per shift. It took about 30 minutes each, and they don't care what you do for the rest of it. So really, you're getting paid by simple scarecrowing around and scaring off potential beggars or hobos only an hour of your 8 hours shift. While it wasn't high pay, the expectations are so low that it sort of justified it. Not all security areas are the same. My job. I make the ballistic fiber that goes in bulletproof vests. I basically just watch movies and play on my phone all day long while the machine runs. As long as everything goes smoothly, I have around 5 minutes of work to do every hour and a half whenever the machines is ready to run new packages. And I'm on break half of the day too because we do 1 hour on the floor, then swap out with our relief for an hour. So every other hour you're on break for an hour. And I have a 2-hour lunch. I make $30.23 an hour and all the overtime I want. I worked at a pool the summer after my senior year of high school. I wasn't a lifeguard, I just had to have the person show me their Navy card to get in the pool, and I had to check the pH levels of the pool at the end of every day. Only had to text my boss, could be on my phone the whole day, chilled with my then girlfriend, and ate food. Didn't even have to clock out for lunch and got an extra half an hour every day. The downside was working in the hot sun, you'd be under an umbrella but the job could get boring. Back in college, I was a computer lab monitor. I just had to sit in the lab, and once every hour count the number of people there. If I was opening or closing the lab, there was about 15 minutes of work for that, but otherwise I could just surf the web or do my homework. Programming for Microsoft products gives you a lot of time not working. If anyone catches me not working, I just say I'm waiting on the build since our main product takes about 4 hours to finish. Truck driving. And not in a bad way. I drove a semi for a few years after the military and it is by far the best job for low-energy introverts. You get paid to do nothing other than stare out a window and listen to music/podcasts/radio. You have to get out every now and then for work, but you won't be doing any back-breaking work and it won't be longer than 10 to 15 minutes at most. Best job if you like to be alone and not really have to do anything. Plus it pays really well. Financial aid officer at a college/university. Those are indeed the slowest, laziest, and inept people there ever were. I'm currently working as a companion for rich old folks with early-stage dementia. Their kids feel guilty for not spending time with them, so they pay me too much to go to the old folks' home every day, hang out, drive their fancy cars and go out for lunch. Most don't wake up till after midday, so I do whatever I want all morning. My old guy now likes to go to this expensive restaurant every day for lunch, full on 3 courses with a bottle of wine, which to be honest has become a bit much for me. Every few days I send the kids a happy smiley pic of the old timer having a good time and they get the warm fuzzies. I'll drive the Jaguar rolls, get them a paper but don't do any personal care at all. It's a sweet gig. Learn to code, live extremely frugally for 5 to 10 years, retire to low-cost location and live off your investment portfolio. Admittedly this optimizes for lifetime laziness rather than short-term laziness. I had a pretty high-paying job, $85K, as a government contractor that was basically this for several months. The contract was overstaffed so there was never anything to do. I would go weeks without any assigned tasks. Sometimes, I even teleworked. I spent my time on personal projects, for example making a family tree, learning VBA, etc., listening to audiobooks, and browsing Reddit. It was the worst job I ever had. Do not recommend. Working the night shift as a hotel desk clerk seems like a do-nothing job for most of the time you spend working. According to his bio, fantasy author Brandon Sanderson got a job working night shift as a hotel clerk after finishing undergrad specifically because it gave him time to work on his novels while on the clock. A friend had to watch a furniture showroom at the Merchandise Mart in Chicago. Or was cool because it was a day job too. He basically slept the entire time. Airline pilot. I take off and literally go to the back, eat a steak and then go to sleep. Then come up later and sit there and read a book. Then land and go eat at some restaurant in Europe. I worked as a personal shopper for a couple of years and it was the chillest and easiest job I have ever had. It was part of this app/website, so I worked remotely from home, basically just Googling things for people and trying to find the best price. I actually found it through Reddit in one of the job subreddits, and it was a small startup company that had only been around for a few months. I honestly don't know how it lasted as long as it did because we didn't charge for our services, and although we had partnerships with many companies and websites, sometimes we ordered through eBay and Amazon since they would end up being the cheapest option. We also didn't have that huge of a customer base and most days were super slow. It was pretty nice for me, got paid $16/hour to basically just watch TV all day and wait to see if we had any requests, most of which wouldn't even take that long. They finally ended up closing last year, but it was an interesting run, and if anything I am really good at finding deals for myself now when I want to buy something.